A local school district is trying to keep up with that area's explosive growth. Their answer? A proposal worth almost $1 billion.
The state is offering up hundreds of acres of land to help with President-elect's deportation plans. Now, a new response coming from the incoming administration.
And we've seen those temperatures starting to rise, finally out of the 40s for most of Texas. But how cold will they get tonight? More details coming up in your first morning weather.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
We hope you're enjoying your Wednesday afternoon so far as we take a live look over downtown Austin. A gorgeous blue sky there, and temperatures are now climbing up to 60 at this point, with freezing temperatures earlier today.
Yeah, it was chilly out there, so we want to bring in meteorologist Freddie Vela. Freddie, just how cold was it out there?
It was very, very cold. A lot of spots dropping down into freezing, but many spots didn't. So let's go ahead and take a look right now at what we actually hit earlier this morning. 27 degrees in Fredericksburg, 27 in Mason, 25 in Llano, but Burnett didn't actually quite make it to freezing, 33 degrees. Dripping Springs didn't make it as well, 35. Austin at 37, Lockhart at 33. Bastrop at 33 and Giddings at 33. So just a reminder, we don't issue the freeze warnings. Those come from the National Weather Service. Essentially, we get the data, and that way we can present it. And many of the spots did have the capacity and the ability to make it to freezing and didn't quite get there. But many other spots did. And we can see out towards the hill country where we drop down into the 20s. Take a live look right now at our Whittlesey Landscape Supplies camera in Liberty Hill. Now, earlier this morning, without the clouds, that helped us get to the colder weather or temperatures. Now, without the clouds, that's going to allow us to at least warm up a tad more. Satellite and radar at this point, clear skies for pretty much everyone. And over the next couple of days, we'll slowly, gradually warm up above average. 66 for tomorrow. That is above average. Friday, 72. Friday 72. Saturday at 74. But the return of rain in between right there. So coming up in your first warning weather, we're going to be talking about another cold night tonight. Not as cold as what we saw this morning, but still cold. Rain chances returning, as I just mentioned, and your weekend weather, because there's a lot going on, especially with another front on the way.
Freddie, thank you so much. The city of Austin is also monitoring the weather. It's deciding if it should open its cold weather shelters tonight.
Last night, those shelters housed more than 100 people. Outreach groups like Walking by Faith Prison Ministry went out yesterday, warning people about the frigid temperatures and working to get them into those shelters.
We're going out, walking, trying to tell people that they can get on the bus for free and go down to Barton Creek. To be able to get prepared to get inside of a recreation center so that they could be warm for tonight and get them some food.
This is the first time those overnight shelters have been activated this winter.
Looking in depth at options outside of Austin, Round Rock told us that its crisis response unit keeps ongoing contact with its homeless community. For longer freeze events, the city will then open overnight shelter options. Georgetown says it didn't open any warming centers, but it does encourage people to check in on others.
Today, the Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board are investigating a small plane crash in Bastrop County. That single-engine plane crashed yesterday near the Smithville-Crawford Municipal Airport, which is right off of Highway 71. Authorities told us that only the pilot was on board and ended up going to an Austin hospital. We do not have any details about that pilot's injuries. The airport operations manager did tell us the plane had some sort of mechanical problem that caused it to lose power right after takeoff. Going in depth now, according to data released by the NTSB, the U.S. saw more than 1,200 general aviation accidents in 2022. Of those, 214 were deadly. General aviation refers to civilian flying activities like recreational flights and pilot training. The NTSB says most deadly small plane crashes are caused by a loss of control during the flight or similar failures.
A Travis County grand jury is indicting a man for capital murder in connection to a decades-old cold case. 25-year-old UT nursing student Susan Lee Wolf was murdered in January of 1980. The case remained cold until last year when investigators used DNA evidence to track down a suspect. In August, a warrant was issued for Deck Brewer Jr., a 78-year-old inmate at a Massachusetts prison. A Travis County grand jury indicted Brewer on 2 counts of capital murder and terroristic threat in connection to Wolf's death.
Coping with the region's explosive growth remains a top priority for the largest school district in Hays County.
Hays CISD has called bond elections every couple of years to keep pace with all the new students, and that is likely to continue in 2025. The district is now considering calling the biggest bond election to date, nearing $1 billion. More than half of the bond would fund a new high school. It would also make possible a new elementary school and several improvement and modernization projects across the district.
Honestly, when we started getting the initial estimates, it's kind of shocking to us too. We'd rather have a higher price and not need it than have a lower price and end up having to scale back what voters have voted for.
The district plans to hold several in-person informational meetings about the bond, and then the board could decide whether to call a May 2025 bond election by mid-February. For some insight, last year, Hays CISD voters approved more than $300 million in bond proposals to keep up with growth. On top of securing more space, it used part of the bond money for more safety and security measures. A few weeks ago, the district installed 6 to 8-foot-tall fences on all campuses. Last year's bond approval came at no additional cost to taxpayers.
Incoming border czar Tom Homan plans to take up an offer from Texas for 1,400 acres along the Rio Grande. We told you how the state land commissioner, Don Buckingham, offered up a recently purchased ranch in Starr County for the upcoming Trump administration's deportation efforts. The Texas General Land Office says that Homan accepted that offer when they both appeared on the Dr. Phil show. In a clip from that show, Homan says he is currently working on a plan to utilize the land. You can scan the QR code that you see there on the left-hand corner of your screen to read more about this through our colleagues at Border Report.
U.S. senators who are members of the January 6th Select Committee are pushing back on the idea of jailing committee members. It comes after President-elect Trump said he is looking to pardon his supporters involved in the attack on the U.S. Capitol, possibly as soon as his first day in office. He also warned that some committee members should, quote, go to jail. Chairman Benny Thompson called Trump's suggestion absolutely wrong.
Just because you disagree with the work of the committee is no way to threaten those members of the committee with jail. So obviously that's his opinion. I'm comfortable with the fact that as members of Congress we were doing our job, and as long as we do our job there are certain guarantees that we have, and I look forward to enforcing those guarantees.
After an 18-month investigation, the committee concluded that Trump was the one man responsible for the efforts to overturn the election, which led to the attack on the Capitol.
Congress still has a lot to do before members adjourn for the year. That includes funding the military and avoiding a government shutdown. Congress has just over a week until government funding expires next Friday. So avoiding a shutdown remains priority number one. In all likelihood, Congress will pass a short-term continuing resolution, pushing a long-term fix to the next Congress in January. Lawmakers must consider more emergency relief money still needed for parts of the country hit hard by natural disasters like hurricanes. Congress also has to pass the annual National Defense Authorization Act to fund the military.
Putting our differences under the microscope only divides us and distracts us from our mission, so I am pleased that the NDAA gets things like DEI and critical race theory out of the military's divisive issues.
It is indeed disappointing that the Republican majority decided to use the NDAA to attack military families with the inclusion of a provision to attack transgender children.
The U.S. House of Representatives is expected to vote on the NDAA as soon as today. If you have any tech-savvy people on your Christmas shopping list this year, sometimes navigating their gifts can be a bit of a challenge. Rich DeMuro explains what to look for in a new and affordable laptop.
Shopping for a new computer can be intimidating.
So it's running to two 360 radiators, one on top, one on the side.
So many models to choose from, so many specs to decide on.
They get really excited when they come here.
Alan Linzaga is a sales associate at Micro Center, a small chain known for their vast selection.
They've also called us like the Disneyland of tech.
Laptops are popular for their portability.
It's really just if you need to do on-the-go work.
For basic web browsing, word processing, and streaming, look for a laptop with an entry-level processor, like an Intel i5 or AMD Ryzen 5, plus 32 gigabytes of RAM to handle Windows 11, and at least 1 terabyte of storage for files and photos.
Your Intel chips, they're pretty much the best ones you can do for productivity. AMD, they kind of stick more towards like your gaming, but you can still do productivity, so it's kind of one of those best of both world scenarios.
New this year, Qualcomm Snapdragon chips, adapted from smartphones.
So those are all more designed for anything that's power efficient, but you still need to use to get the job done.
For gaming, video editing, and multitasking, step up to an Intel i7 or AMD Ryzen 7 processor, and look for a laptop with a dedicated graphics card.
Mainly because when you're gaming, you're rendering stuff out more, and your processor can do it, but it'll do it at a much slower and lower resolution overall.
For specific models, Lanzaga likes the Acer Swift Go and Lenovo Legion 5 for about $1,000. For $500, he likes the Dell Inspiron 15.
It's good for just daily work processing. You want to get your kid a laptop, you want to play some really light games, do the job just fine.
Lots of good ideas.
Yeah, and all that story makes me think of is, has everybody finished their holiday shopping for the year? Because I, for one, have not.
Why you gotta bring it up?
You know, it's maybe a reminder, at least for me, to say it out loud and be like, oh yeah, I need to do that. Yeah.
You know, there is actually something really cool that people can do this weekend. I was going to bring it up in my weekend weather for tomorrow, and I can kind of spill the beans today.
Sneak peek.
Yeah, a little sneak peek. There's a thing that's called the Armadillo Christmas Bazaar.
Yes.
This is their 50th anniversary that they're doing this, and so they're actually going to have a lot of great deals that you can do.
There you go.
Yeah, you can one-stop shopping, hopefully, maybe for somebody.
Maybe for someone. I love to shop for cooler weather, and it looks like that's what we got. Take a look at our Lockhart camera out here. Beautiful blue skies that we've been able to see and enjoy for the day. Again, the cloudless day is helping us get to slightly warmer conditions. That is great news for us because it was quite a cold morning this morning. Take a look at satellite and radar at this point. It's everyone. Everyone is enjoying this absolutely wonderful day. Zoom out a bit more for the rest of the state, and of course that front way farther down towards the south again. Current temperatures 57 degrees in Fredericksburg, 57 in Mason, 59 in Llano, 58 in Austin, 57 degrees right now in Bastrop, Giddings at 59, Flatonia at 61, Cameron at 60, San Saba way up there at 58 degrees. All right, so the next couple of hours, no real big change here. We're looking at sunny skies for the rest of the day today. It's not until we get to tomorrow that we expect for the clouds to build up one more time. That leads us from Thursday into Friday. The rain chances start to pick up Friday one more time, and by the time we get to Saturday, a better chance of seeing a few showers go on there. So from now until then, we're going to have one more very cold night. Not as cold as what we saw this morning, but still cold enough to make you want to throw on a jacket or a blanket as you're taking the dogs out for a walk here. 33, I say blanket because I'm usually on my couch when my dogs need to go outside, and I just grab whatever blanket I have and kind of bundle myself up. Anyway, TMI, 33 in Fredericksburg, 32 in Mason, 33 in Llano, 36 in Georgetown, 34 in Rockdale, and 34 degrees as you get out towards LaGrange. Take a look at your light hanging forecast for tomorrow. We'll start off down into the 30s, and then by 9 a.m. to around 46 degrees. Play this out a bit more. By the time we get towards the afternoon, we're looking at about 60 by 1 p.m., and then we're topping off at around 64 degrees, which is right around average and where we want to be around this time of year. By the time we get to later in the evenings, we're back down into the 50s one more time. Now, I did mention the chance of rain, so take a look at your satellite and radar. This is our Euro model, giving us that chance of rain for Austin and pretty much all of eastern Texas. But then a front starts to come in, and we'll start to see all the moisture start to pile up as the front comes through. Because remember, what do we talk about? The lift. As the cooler air comes in, the warmer air rises, and then we expect, if it's already saturated enough, we'll start to get some thunderstorms. Now, the amount of rainfall, again, still not as impressive. We're looking at maybe an inch of a rain, and then farther down, but you get the pockets of heavy showers could put you over the edge there. 72 as we get out towards Friday, 74 on Saturday, 73 on Sunday. By Monday, 74. That front comes in, takes our temperatures down one more time. We need the rain. In fact, let's go ahead and send it over to Tommy House to tell us why.
Yeah, we had a few days, Freddie, of rain earlier in the month of December, but actually still over 50% of Texas is under a drought, according to the United States Drought Monitor. Let's look at some of the conditions here and localized impacts. An extreme drought for Travis down toward Hayes, south of Gillespie toward San Antonio. San Marcos is in that level 3 out of 4. How about the El Paso region, western parts of the Lone Star State, dealing with that level 4 out of 4. The exception, Amarillo, Lubbock, west of DFW, not seeing any sort of dry conditions at this time. Compared to last week, really, there's not much of a difference. We've been in this extreme drought over the Austin metro area now for weeks on end, but 4 months ago, completely different story. Remember July, we had a few flooding events, but since then, the drought has continued to increase. And as Freddie mentioned, rain chances starting early Friday, lasting throughout early next week.
You are taking a live look now from our KXAN weather cam over downtown Austin. A sunny, beautiful day, but we know this morning was colder than many people were maybe expecting. Thankfully, our wonderful weather team is tracking whether or not we'll see some cold mornings in the days to come. Stick with us for that. First, Austin resident Alex Jones says he's celebrating a ruling that keeps his media empire out of the hands of satirical news site The Onion.
A bankruptcy judge rejected the sale last night and said the auction process was unfair. The judge ruled The Onion's parent company had not submitted the best bid. The judge said he would leave that decision about what to do next in the hands of a trustee who had overseen the auction. The Onion's parent company had partnered in its bid with families of some of the victims of the 2012 Sandy Hook school shooting. They successfully sued Jones for defamation, winning court judgments now valued at $1.2 billion. Bad news to share this afternoon for coffee drinkers out there. There is a possibility that your daily cup could become more expensive, and the cause? Climate change. Unpredictable climate events are spiking the price of Arabica beans to record high levels. The beans this month are up to $3.50 per pound. That's up 70% this year. The countries that produce most of those beans, Brazil and Vietnam, are experiencing diminished crop yields.
Still to come, the Secretary of State is going before Congress today. What lawmakers are saying about the Biden administration's exit from Afghanistan.
And if you sell anything online, you might see a change coming to your business. Why the Texas Comptroller is looking to clarify the state's tax laws.
Nick. In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
It is 12:30 on your Wednesday afternoon, and we're taking a live look over a gorgeous view of downtown Austin. Temperatures are warming up very nicely compared to where they were, Avery, this very morning.
Oh yeah, it was a coat morning for sure. Really
had to dig out the much stronger coat.
Yeah, felt like December for sure. Okay, Freddie Vela, you've been tracking these temperatures for us. How does this stack up to what we've seen so far this month?
November, very, very hot. October, very, very hot. December, actually on a cooling trend right now, as we've seen more blue days than red days. Take a look at the calendar here. So you can see the difference between the beginning of the month, where we were above average temperatures, to where we're at now. On the 11th, it says 42. Don't worry about that. That was a temperature registered early this morning. But we can count 3 red days compared to 7 blue days. And that's good news. However, I expect to see a couple more red days start to filter in over the weekend. And hopefully we can counteract that with getting some cooler weather back in. And remember, the red just means above average temperatures. At this point, we're still at 54 degrees at Lake Travis. This is out of the Oasis camera. A beautiful shot here of the beautiful lake itself and the sky. Sticking blue right now with temperatures at around 58 degrees in Austin. 62 in San Marcos. We're looking at 58 in Fredericksburg, 61 in Georgetown, and 61 degrees in Bastrop with clear skies all the way across. So this morning, Freezing in many spots tonight. It's not going to be freezing, but it's going to be just as cold in many areas. Austin should be at around 38. Remember, today we were at 37 this morning, so you're going to have to crank up that heater. As we go throughout the next few days, it won't be as cold. We're going to be at 61 degrees for Saturday morning, and this is one of the results. We're going to start to see clouds rolling back in, and that'll start to compress some of that heat along the surface and give us some of the warmer mornings. So coming up, we're going to talk about the cold night ahead, the rain chances that are returning for the weekend, and your weekend weather leading into the beginning of next week, because we do have another front on the way. I'll tell you about it coming up.
Thanks so much, Freddie. Police in Washington state arrested a minor in connection with a September swatting incident at San Marcos High School. The city of San Marcos says that suspect is facing charges in similar swatting calls across the country. Swatting is when someone makes a false report of a shooting or a threat to get a large emergency response. In late September, around 150 first responders raced to San Marcos High School following an anonymous report of an active shooting there. That all turned out to be false. Investigators say that detectives connected the young suspect with the San Marcos incident after a search of his phone and computers. San Marcos police are not identifying that minor, though, because of his age.
Williamson County is one step closer to hiring death investigators. Commissioners voted on additional funding yesterday. A county spokesperson says in order to hire people with expertise, the positions needed to be reclassified. Commissioners added nearly $48,000 to go towards the positions, which include 2 senior death inquest investigators. The new hires would help justices of the peace, judges, take death calls, respond to scenes, and prepare reports across the county.
I sat with all 4 of our JPs as we interviewed candidates, and there was one particular candidate that we interviewed, and we surmised that that candidate had more death inquest experience than all 5 of us combined.
The county has been working closely with the JPs who first shared concerns of juggling court dockets and death investigations with our KXAN investigators back in March. The judges say ultimately the county needs a medical examiner's office. You can catch up on the background of this and all of our coverage on these concerns by heading to KXAN.com. Just click on this story in the investigative section.
Russia's deputy foreign minister has confirmed Bashar al-Assad is in the country now, ousted by a Syrian rebellion. The Assad regime has been accused of attacks with chemical weapons and other war crimes, as well as murder, systematic torture, and enforced disappearances. NBC's Keir Simmons has the latest from Dubai.
Well, in an exclusive interview with NBC News, Russia's deputy foreign minister said, the first time any Russian official has said it, that President Assad, or as we should now call him, former President Assad of Syria, is in Russia. When we pressed him on whether Russia would be prepared to send President Assad to the International Criminal Court, he said Russia is not party to that court. Of course, the International Criminal Court also has an arrest warrant for President Putin of Russia, as well as Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel. That arrest warrant rejected by Israel and by the United States. Sergei Ryabkov said that Russia, in protecting President Assad, is doing what is right. That is a message to autocrats around the world. If you're friends with us, we'll be friends with you. Keir Simmons, NBC News.
Keir, thank you. The Secretary of State will testify before House lawmakers today about the 2021 U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Trevor Shirley reports that Antony Blinken's testimony comes nearly 3 months after the House Foreign Affairs Committee voted to recommend he be held in contempt of Congress because of a standoff over his appearance before that panel.
Republicans especially are pushing for more information on what led up to the chaos as U.S. forces pulled out of Afghanistan. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is facing tough questions from some lawmakers who say the Biden administration completely botched the U.S. pullout from Afghanistan. As U.S. forces left the country in August of 2021, chaotic scenes played out as thousands of Afghans tried to flee the country. A bombing at the Kabul airport also killed 13 U.S. service members. And within days, the Taliban swept back across the country and regained complete control. Some lawmakers say it was a major intelligence failure, that the White House did not understand the Taliban's strength and ability. Today, lawmakers have criticized Secretary Blinken, saying the White House refuses to acknowledge the failure, instead trying to spin the withdrawal as a success.
You had plenty of opportunity to plan for the inevitable collapse of Afghanistan. Instead, even with the warning bells sounding loudly, ringing loudly, you denied the imminent and dangerous threats to American interest.
Even the U.S. government's most pessimistic assessments did not anticipate that the Afghan government and security forces would collapse so rapidly in the face of Taliban advances. Nevertheless, because of the administration's extensive interagency planning and coordination, when Kabul fell on August 15th, the United States was able to evacuate our embassy and relocate our diplomats to the airport within 48 hours.
Democrats say Republicans have been misleading in their characterization of the withdrawal, calling a GOP report on the withdrawal partisan politics. Reporting in Washington, I'm Trevor Shirley.
Some small business owners say they're concerned after a state leader said the state needs to update taxing laws for businesses who sell their products on certain online marketplaces.
Texas Comptroller Glenn Hagar would like to clarify what a data processing service is. For business owners out there, that means there could be another tax to list items online. It is only if the marketplace did not already include that tax in the fees for sellers. The CEO of the sauce company Pretty Thai says he's worried the company will end up paying more in taxes than what they're selling items.
There's a very real chance that we will not be able to sell on the platform because it won't make financial sense.
Glenn Hagar says his office's job is to clarify the tax language, and it's up to legislators to change the law. 4 workers at a general store in Burnett County are now being recognized for saving a man who went into cardiac arrest. Those workers got their awards last night at a ceremony at the fire station in Spicewood. They did know about the awards beforehand, but they did not know the man whom they saved would be there too.
The last few days I was in the hospital, I kept thinking, how am I going to find these folks? Like I said earlier, if you need help, go to the general store.
Well, some of the first responders there in the Hill Country hope this ceremony encourages more people out there to learn how to give CPR. Giving some depth now, there are jobs that may require life-saving CPR training you might not even think about. Educators and child care providers should all have necessary training. However, construction workers and electricians also need those skills in case of an emergency on the job. Additionally, flight attendants could also need to use CPR midair. People living in central Indiana say they believe they witnessed a meteor shower early Tuesday morning. Several outdoor security cameras captured this right here, a celestial display falling from the sky. According to meteorologists, that stunning sight is believed to be a meteor from the annual Geminids meteor shower. The shower is expected to peak this Friday, the 13th. Hopefully we can maybe see it.
This next story might not be as aesthetically pleasing as the last one. Residents in southern Maine woke up to a not-so-white pre-Christmas scene this week. Take a look at this. This video shows what happened after a paper mill malfunctioned, leading to all that slightly brown snow. Not what you want to see. It came after a byproduct of the paper-making process was released into the snow. Town leaders told locals to avoid ingesting or really having any direct skin contact with that snow out of an abundance of caution.
So in Savannah, we had paper mills. They smell so bad. They are not great. So in the snow, not a good mix.
Yeah, just stay away from any kind of discolored snow.
Discolored snow, yeah, that's your warning today.
I grew up next to a ranch. It smelled kind of weird there too, but you know, not paper mill variety.
Builds character, right?
That's right. Hey, something else that builds character is knowledge, and here's some knowledge for you. First Warning Weather University defining wind chill, because we may be bringing that up a bit more, especially especially with the fronts that are coming in. A measure of how cold the air feels on the exposed skin. The cold air and the wind speed are put together. It's a complicated formula, but there's no impact from either the sun or the humidity. And so when we talk about wind chill, it's just something that you have to be careful for. And over the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months, we'll start to see more fronts from the Arctic, and those have normally more brutal wind chills with it. All right, take a look at your out-the-door forecast. 60 for 1 p.m., 64 by 3 p.m., and by 7 p.m. we're looking at about 55 degrees, then back down into the 40s later on tonight. A few spots down into the 30s. Around 38 is where I expect us to kind of bottom out at before we start to rise once again. Rain chances start to pick up as we get to the weekend and the beginning of next week with another front. And by the way, follow me on TikTok, Threads, X, Instagram, Facebook, Freddie Vela TV for the latest.
Every social media platform is covered there.
TikTok,
Some of those
TikTok is the
dancing
most.
weather
Follow,
videos.
Yeah, follow me on there. No dancing. I'm a horrible dancer.
No dancing. Just forecast, no dancing. All right.
Well, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here on KXAN News at noon. We will see you back here in about 30 minutes with another update. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Take care.